Something I always wanted in one of my portable Bluetooth speakers. As soon as I turn it on, I want it to tell me what the battery charge is. So I've got the XB32.
Battery fully charged.
I've got a fully charged battery. I can't tell you how important that is in a Bluetooth speaker. So obviously I've gone to the trouble of making sure you know all the time, every time you turn it on, what the charge of that battery is. Therefore, surely it must be one of the best Bluetooth speakers there has ever been. So when I got the Sony XB32, I think summer of last year, in fact both these speakers came out 2019. I say both these two speakers, of course we have the world champion pound for pound Soundcore Anker Motion Plus speaker, the Sony XB32. I did a review when I first got this. I wasn't too impressed, not really played it since, so we took them out last summer. I did start playing it a few times just to get a hang of where we was it really as bad as I remember. I did do a review comparing it to several other speakers. Didn't really find a lot to like about it. I started playing it again. Actually, listening to the bass, I quite liked the quality of the bass. Almost Denon 250 like. It's not huge, massive, deep bass, but it's on a small scale, it's a rumbly, rounded bass. It sounds quite nice in a speaker of this size. So I thought, you know what, I haven't done a review against the Motion Plus, and I've done most speakers against this, including a lot of bigger speakers. So I'll do the Anker Motion Plus speaker versus the Sony XB32, if there's anyone a year late that's still wondering where we are with these two speakers. Just to give you a quick rundown comparison of the specs. Right now, they are both around the same price, depending on the deal you get, about £80 in the UK. So they are about the same size, they are about the same retail price. These speakers, they are 30 watt speaker. I believe the Sony XB32 is a 30 watt speaker. Sony don't give a lot away in their specs, but we're talking 30 watt type speakers. Normally, these used to be around 130 quid. Obviously, and we've got better value speakers coming out now. We're talking about £80 for these two speakers. Now, in terms of battery, 6,700 milliamp hours, but 3.7 volts, 5,400 milliamp hours, but it's 2,700 milliamp hour batteries. It's running at 7.4 volts, which on paper possibly is going to give you a bit more power, but it's not going to give you the same battery life as a 3.7 volt powered speaker. Although they do claim 24 hours, obviously, I think I've said it before, say it again, battery specs are the most ridiculous specs to get. There's no great headway in battery technology. You match up your battery capacity or power output, or both, with the volume your speaker is delivering, you're going to get around the same battery life, no matter what they say, mixed use, blah, blah, blah. I can tell you just under 7 hours maximum. On the Anker Motion Plus, I haven't tested the Sony XB32. I'm guessing on these specs, it's going to be a lot less when I'm playing at maximum. They're claiming 24 hours as their headlines. Absolutely ridiculous. The only thing that matters is how much battery life do you get when you play at maximum, and how loud is it going? That's the only way to really compare between speakers. What you do get with both of these, being Sony, you do get LDAC as a higher end codec, AAC. You get aptX with the Anker Motion Plus. I'm saying that because a lot of these speakers, in fact the majority of these speakers, are basic SBC codecs, so we are getting higher end codecs on both of these speakers. We're into Bluetooth 5 territory. We're still on Bluetooth 4.2 for the Sony. They both do stereo pairing. We've got USB-C connection with the Anker Motion Plus. You've got proprietary connector with the Sony, but it is a 5 volt connector. You can get a USB lead, third party, and connect it and power it by USB. Thing to note is though, it's only a 1.5 amp charge. So 5 volts, 1.5 amps, 5 volts, 2 amps. You're going to get slightly quicker charging times for the same amount of capacity battery going in on the Anker, but it's a bigger battery, so it'll probably take a little bit longer anyway, but you'll get more capacity. Weight's about the same, 900 grams. 1,050 grams. The XB32 does have NFC, the Anker Motion Plus doesn't. They're both rated for dropping in 1.5 meters of water up to 30 minutes. They both float, but they don't float with the drivers up. So they float, but you're not going to be able to play it that way because the drivers are going to be in the water. In terms of frequency response, it's absolutely incredible. We have a 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz speaker in the Sony XB32. A jest, of course, because it's absolute nonsense, isn't it? You might as well say it's 1 hertz to 50 million hertz. You know, within what range are they measuring? It should be within plus or minus 3 decibels. That's the accepted standard for a frequency response measurement. They don't state it. I can tell you it's not 20 hertz. I mean, you're struggling to get 10-inch, 12-inch subwoofers that are going to go down to 20 hertz in a meaningful way. The idea that that speaker does 20. Of course, if you turn it up full and you're only playing that one tone, you may just hear it to your ear, but you're not going to hear it in terms of part of a musical track. So I did measure both of them. I found I'm going to get onto that actually at the end, not to give too much away, but it's not great news for the Sony XB32. In terms of drivers, you've got tweeters on the Motion Plus. You don't have tweeters on the XB32. 50mm, a pair of 50mm woofers, a pair of 48mm woofers, and you've both got twin passive radiators on both of those. So that's the headline specs. Let's get straight into it. So how do they compare? Is the Sony as bad as I remember it? Because I haven't played it in about a year. 33%. So this is low level listening. Of course, I record it at 33%, and you play it. You might have a 500-watt system and playing it to wake up the neighbours. That's not reality. Obviously, when I record it, 33% on these speakers is quite quiet. So bear that in mind. This is low level listening.
Without us, and I'll be killing time like I might be a cartoon. Take it in real life like haiku. I know we got the good vibes when pieces fall right into place. Even if I lost my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it. To speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding. 'Cause you got me holding. One, two, three, no.
Using test tones, both speakers 33%. You can see the Motion Plus plays significantly louder. In terms of actual frequency response, the XB32 has a big suck out around 150 Hz to around 500 Hz, and then it's peaking just below 3000 Hz, 4500 Hz, around 14,000 Hz. The peaks are in line with its bass. Motion Plus, smoother response, but a bit bass heavy. On paper, the Motion Plus is the more accurate frequency response when using my custom settings. When you volume match them, you can see you end up with the XB32 having significantly more high-end, sounding significantly clearer, a bit more of an extended bass. On real-world tracks, on the tracks you just heard, the Motion Plus, the XB32, first of all you can see the high end, you get a bit more clarity, like around 4,500 Hertz, where the Motion Plus is a bit flat, sounds more definition. However, the Motion Plus is a bit more accurate, but at low volumes, a bit of a push in the bass in the high end is not unwelcome. So 33%, 36% on the XB32. When you volume match them, the XB32 sounds a bit more extended in the bass, sounds a bit sharper, a bit clearer. The Motion Plus sounds a bit thicker, a bit flatter, but a bit more accurate. Bear in mind, these are low volumes. I should mention, I'm doing all these clips with clear audio on for the Sony XB32, and I'm doing my custom settings for the Motion Plus. Why are you doing that, Al? Well, because you've got to use custom settings, in my opinion, and the video is about my opinion, to really get the best out of the Motion Plus. It's the only way I like listening to it. It really brings out what it's capable of. So, for me, my custom settings always, when I do the recordings for the Motion Plus, you have various settings on the XB32. You have a live mode, which is really, I think, about marketing. Doesn't sound very good. Sounds good for a couple of seconds, and then you listen to a few different tracks and you realize, it's not very good, is it? You've got extra bass, but you've also got clear audio, and you've got EQ settings in the app. You've only got 3 sliders, but you do have sliders. Now, on my XB40 and my XB30, could do quite a lot with those sliders. Can't do that with the XB32 because, first of all, if you want to use clear audio, enabling any of the other EQ settings, so your custom EQ settings with the sliders, disables clear audio. Clear audio being auto EQ, what they call auto EQ. They think they're doing the best EQ they think that track needs. Whereas extra bass does remain enabled, you're disabling clear audio. I found if I'm trying to get as flat a response as possible, it's not worth the effort because there's very little you can do with the sliders once you've disabled clear audio. I think it's best to leave clear audio on. If I'm talking about because I want a setting that I can just leave and forget. The setting that works for most volumes on both these speakers, I came to the conclusion it's clear audio, and that means not clear extra bass. It means extra bass is on, but if you play around with the sliders, you're disabling clear audio. So in the app, you want to make sure there's a tick in clear audio to be sure clear audio is on. You used to get the light for extra bass, which was also the clear audio mode. It doesn't work quite the same in the XB32. The light on here is only for live on and live off. So that's why these measurements and these recordings are with clear audio and custom settings in the Motion Plus. At low volume, I do think, you know, with got this slight rumbly bass, which you don't really have with the XB. You have a reasonably deep bass for the size of the speaker, but it's a different quality bass. It's a kind of a bass that I like. There's a slight rumble to it, and it's very pleasing, especially if you like a warm sound. Now, if you want a lot of attack and a lot of drive, may not be the sort of bass you want to go for, but for me, I quite like that bass. I prefer a more relaxing listen. It sounds a bit clearer than the Motion Plus, albeit with my settings, and you could obviously bring down that bass. It makes it sound a bit thick. However, I've got to point out, at low volumes, a bit of high-end lift and a bit of low-end lift is actually matching what your ears hear. So it's a complicated subject when we talk about, oh, well, I want a flat frequency response. What actually ends up being a flat frequency to your ears, amongst a million other things, the volume, or the sound pressure levels that you are hearing that volume at. Your ears will be sensitive to different parts of that frequency range, and therefore at lower volumes, why a bass boost is okay is because it's in effect actually flattening out the sound. So not a bad thing, it just makes it sound a bit thicker, but it is more accurate on the Motion Plus. However, if you want a clearer sound, I do quite like it at low volume. So I thought, oh, maybe I got it a bit wrong, but I got to stress, you know, I don't know what volume you're playing that at, but for me, that's low level. That's not real world listening. Real world listening, 66%.
To the end of the road, there's no point in running away now. I'd rather sleep until the storm is gone. She'd rather be shooting at me now. know it will end up in anger. I don't think we grew up, we just became older. She's aiming her words, ready to fire. I don't think that bullets will bring back desire. I don't think that bullets will bring back desire. Like a blink of an eye's not enough. She'd rather be staying for days now. I'd rather fix it than mess up again. She'd rather be burning it all now. I know it will end up in anger. I don't think we grew up, we just became older. She's aiming her words, ready to fire. I don't think that bullets will bring back desire.
Heavy is that? Light work with the bass on the track, on my face to the back like I'm taking a slap. I need a drink but it's straight from the tap. And I'm hating the slack, couple mans run around like they hate in the gaff. Please stop talking that trash cause the vibes in the front all the way to the back.
If I play them both at 66% using test tones, you can see the Motion Plus plays louder. It's a flatter response, it's a smoother response. XB32 suffering significantly from suck out 150 Hz to around 500 Hz. So that's the upper bass, lower mids region. It's going to rob it of some slam and some warmth. It's actually got quite a drop off now at the high end from 5000 Hz. At lower volumes, it had a bit of a peak, which helped the clarity. Now it has a bit of a drop-off. It's robbing it of some clarity. The Motion Plus quite smooth with my custom settings. Volume matching them in those actual tracks. That means Motion Plus 66%, XB32 amazingly 83% to get them sounding around the same volume. You still end up with Motion Plus having a bigger bass peak, 82 Hz, minus 19, minus 20. It's not huge, but there is a decibel in it. Although still the XB32 has a little bit more bass extension, 50 Hz, minus 23, minus 24. So that makes the XB32 1 decibel louder at 50 Hz. But the XB32 has a suck out and a drop off at the high end. So it's losing body, warmth and clarity. Motion Plus, XB32. Motion Plus peaking around 8000 Hz, about minus 45. XB32 minus 48. 3 decibels down. So as the volume goes up, the advantages for the XB32 are vanishing. So now we get to the crux of the matter. Yeah, it's not that great, is it? This is why I stopped playing the XB32. That suck out in the sound you get between 150 Hz, 500 Hz, there is nothing you can do. You can't mess around in the app. Of course you can get third-party apps, but I don't do that. If I can't embed it in firmware, it's too awkward and too messy, and the results are not good enough for me. But I know a lot of you guys, you do use third-party EQs. You could have, I don't know how many sliders, 5, 10, 15, 20 sliders. You get the sound you like. However, for all intents and purposes, for me, that's something that I can't overcome in the way I like to listen to a speaker, or using the Sony's own EQ settings that I can embed into the firmware. can't be fixed. It's there. It makes for, so in some ways it makes for, accentuates some of the vocals. However, once you start going to higher volumes, there's quite a roll off in the high end, which you don't get at the low end. That's why it still sounds decent at the low end. So in the high volumes, the roll off at the high end, along with that suck out, 150 hertz, 500 hertz, for me makes it unlistenable. Certainly unlistenable in an A/B comparison. If it's your only speaker, or you're not A/Bing it, it probably sounds okay. However, you can do a lot better for the price, or probably even for cheaper, once you start wanting to listen at real world volumes. Also, 83% I had to play the volume on here to match the volume of 66% on the Anker Motion Plus. So 83%, you're really pushing it. Going to be a bit cleaner, you would hope, only pushing it to 66% on the Motion Plus. So it appears that there's not even the headroom on the XB32. So if we really push it, if I go to 100%, now, just to be fair, disabling clear audio and actually going maximum on the bass, maximum on the treble. So this is as loud as it can go in terms of pushing it in the app. 100% versus 100%.
It's time to quit while we're ahead. Don't think like that. I will love you endlessly. If you don't believe, don't you be like that. I will love you forever. If you don't believe in me, yeah.
You couldn't be with anyone. I couldn't be with anyone. You're here with me. You're here with me. You could be around, but
You could be with anyone. I could be with anyone. You're here with me. You're here with me. You could be around, but you could be with anyone. I could be with anyone. You're here with me. You're here with me.
you could be around, but
You could be with anyone. I could be with anyone. You're here with me. You're here with me. Said, don't you think like that. I will love you endlessly. If you only believe me, don't you think like that. I will love you endlessly. If you don't believe in me,
you could be with anyone. I could be with anyone. You're here with me. You're here with me. You could be around, but
you could be with anyone. I could be with anyone. You're here with me. You're here with me. You could be around, but you You could be with anyone. I could be with anyone. You're here with me. You're here with me.
you could be around, but
You could be with anyone. I could be with anyone. You're here with me. You're here with me.
100% maximum volume, Motion Plus, XB32 custom mode, bass and treble to the max. The best you can say about the XB32 is the bass holds up okay compared to the Motion Plus. While the bass peak at 65 Hz Still just under a decibel louder on the Motion Plus, minus 36 dB at 50 Hz. The XB32 is actually 3 decibels louder in the lower, deeper bass. But that's about it. The rest of the frequency range falls right away. In fact, from about 6,000 Hz, there's a big roll-off in the XB32. So Motion Plus not only sounds a lot clearer, a lot more full-bodied, goes a lot more louder. You can see the peak on the Motion Plus is actually in the lower mids, whereas on the XB32 it is in the bass. But the Motion Plus, louder, clearer, slightly better bass punch, but XB32 holding up in the deeper bass. Motion Plus nearly 2 decibels louder in actual peak terms. Take the whole frequency range and it's 4.5 decibels louder than the XB32. So to sum all that up, if you're really going to listen at low volumes, the XB32 may be a decent option. The bass is quite decent, it sounds quite clear, and you can do things with it that you can't do with the Motion Plus. For instance, you can use this as a power bank, and you can't, I believe, with the Motion Plus, I'm just checking that note, you can't use it as a power bank. Other than low volume, there's not a lot to say. It doesn't go as loud as a speaker that costs the same and is about the same size. However, you do get these fancy lights with the XB32. You know, it's a flashier design. You can get it in all sorts of pretty colors. So if
Battery fully
actually, oh, thank you for telling me it's fully charged. If, I mean, that may be something you want. You may want to quickly know the minute it starts up what the battery charge is, and then you're going to go for the Sony XB32 because you're going to know, it's going to tell you. But other than that, you could say, you know, the form factor may be a bit nicer, but they both float. They both do the same thing when you chuck them in water. You're going to get a better sound, and it's going to go louder with the Motion Plus for about the same money, depending on the deal. It may be a bit cheaper, maybe a bit more expensive. But yeah, it's what I remembered. There's not a lot of reason for me to grab the 32 if I can grab the Motion Plus. Having said that, I've only got one of these. I haven't tried it in stereo. There are issues with the Motion Plus. Even now, we just had the latest firmware update. The issue being when you play them in as a stereo pair, one of them defaults to something other than the settings you've got in the master one. I don't know, maybe it sounds better as a stereo with the XB32. However, I've only got one. There's no incentive for me to get another one. My conclusion is, I don't know, why would I get the XB, why would I tell you to get XB32? I would tell you to get this if you want live sound, and you're only going to listen to it for about 2 minutes. If you want to use it as a power bank, if you need NFC, it's going to look prettier. If you're in a dark room and you're smooching or something, it's nice having a speaker like that. It's a little bit more romantic than a plain black speaker that's not doing anything else. But if you're just listening to audio quality of these two speakers, it's got to be, for me, for my money, the Motion Plus. Hope you got something out of this video, and I thank you for watching.
UK